again. This one's going to be on oatmeal. I am Dr. Rutherford, certified functional medicine practitioner, chiropractor.
Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, as well as being a chiropractor.
And we are doing this in the interest of helping you to stay better. We're not interested in you not staying better, okay? And so oatmeal is the big topic today because of a variety of things relative to what I'm seeing in the stores and relative to one of our patients coming in yesterday. We have folks that come back in here after they're feeling good for a while, and then they'll say something like, my bowels are off a little bit again. I'm feeling a little puffy. I'm getting a little bloated. I'm putting some weight on. You know who I'm talking to. And first thing we're usually going to think of is are you following the diet? But oatmeal seems to have a specific place in our heart here relative to difficulty, because I notice that the oatmeal world has stepped up its game in putting gluten-free on its packaging, and indeed that is not a fib. It is accurate. However, there's a lot you need to know about that.
It is a grain. And so we talk so much throughout the course of the program about what grains do in our experience to this gastrointestinal microbiome, the bacteria in your gut. And we've seen for years that when patients start to introduce rice and corn back into their diet, they start to gain weight again. Their signs of insulin resistance come back. We see associations with pieces of bacteria breaking off, going into the bloodstream. And we've seen the same association with oatmeal, but oatmeal is seemingly so much healthier. As Dr. Rutherford is saying, it's a great breakfast food. It's easy to grab for, and it's not rice or corn. And maybe I harp so much on rice and corn as I'm talking with all of you that I don't harp enough on oatmeal throughout the course of the program. And so we had a patient yesterday come back in who started eating oatmeal yesterday, and I about fell off my chair because I was thinking, well, you're doing so well. And now we've gained some weight back, and that is the cause of it. And we were discussing that, oatmeal is very carbohydrate dense too. It's not that we're anti-carb, but it is very carbohydrate dense. 2 little packets are 50 grams of carbohydrates, and that's a lot of carb for these gut bacteria to grow on and to bloom on.
Yep. Yeah, and did you mention that oatmeal is processed in the same facilities?
Yeah.
So generally, oatmeal is going to be processed in the same facilities. This was the very first argument as to why not to eat oatmeal. In fact, when I went to my first class in which gluten sensitivity was discussed, they said wheat, barley, oats, rye, and oats, or wheat, barley, oats, and rye. And so, of course, everybody in the audience went, oats are not, that are not gluten. And then the professor, the teacher, went on to make the point that all of these grains are processed in the same, 90 or 95% of them are processed in the same facilities, on the same mechanisms, on the same machines, put in the same barrels, put in the same. So the cross contamination for oats is amazing. And people ask me about what about oats from other countries, and then Dr. Gates kind of sort of already answered that. Well, he didn't kind of sort of, he's answered that, but he didn't specifically say oats. When we find people who are sensitive to gluten, that is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure many of you have heard us say this before, but usually it is just the tip of the iceberg. And one of those things that is the tip too is cross sensitivities to other grains. So even if it is an oat from another country, it's still a grain. I had an MS patient come in here yesterday to interview, and it was interesting. He went through this really austere diet for a year. It was crazy, frankly. If you think our diet's bad, oh my God, you wouldn't want to be on this thing. And it was something clearly you could never do for the rest of your life, and he didn't. But when he's toughing it out right now by his own admission, and yet he said, I went on a diet. I felt substantially better. And now he's kind of sort of not on the diet because it's a difficult diet to follow for the rest of your life. But one of the things he said that I want to bring out, he said, but I'm back on grains, and I'm back on rice, and I'm back on oats. He apparently thought oats was gluten. He said, because we need grains, because we have to have grains. So I want to beat that one out of your head too. okay, because you don't have to have grains. There are other things you can eat other than grains. We're a perfect example of that. I don't think we look like we're collapsing into the ground, or like our energy levels are gone, or like we're not able to lift the pencil or a pen or anything like that. I mean, grains can be extremely inflammatory. So it's the carbohydrates, it's the cross sensitivity of the grains, it's the fact that it's in a it's processed in the same just think oats equals gluten, no matter what you see on those packages. Because now didn't say gluten-free before. Now then you say gluten-free. Now it's like gluten-free, because they realize it's hurting their their profits. And I don't blame them for that, because they're not lying. It is gluten-free, but for you, it is off limits.
Exactly. And as we were talking about before this, it's a slow burn. So it's going to take a while for you to start noticing a difference when you start eating oatmeal again. You're going to have to eat it for weeks before the weight starts coming back on, because really it's a shift too in your microbiome in your gut, just like we saw with rice and corn when people eat a lot of gluten-free breads. So I think we've driven this point home. Have a good grain-free Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. If you don't, then we hope you have a wonderful Thursday.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye.